All right, good morning, baseball and coffeeers. It is 10:01 on Wednesday, January 21st. It's like 10, 15, 20 degrees outside. Felt every bit of it this morning as we fought the battle to get everybody out of the house as usual. Chris Bassitt will be on here in about 10 minutes. So quickly, I'm going to touch on Luis Robert for a hot second. We'll fully dive in later, but I did want to get my initial thoughts out. Also, we had two Hall of Famers we'll talk about later, Beltran and Andrew Jones, two guys obviously I voted for. I voted for 10 in my fake ballot, of course, that we did on here. But overall, happy for both of these guys. I mentioned yesterday in my Discord that Beltran was one of the hardest outs ever. And I hated facing him. So I actually pulled up some of my at-bats, and I'll pull that later. But what we should start really quick, and before Mr. Bass gets in here, and then we'll go ahead and chat with him, is we should go look at the newest Met and how this looks on the depth chart. Luis Robert. La Pantera. Have him in the 8-hole here, which is hilarious because he's one of the most talented players in the big leagues. This was an interesting trade. He'll be penciled in now in center field. Here is the full trade here. Luis Angel Acuna and Truman Pauly are going the other direction to the White Sox. I do think this was a decent move for the White Sox. I mean, Luis Robert's getting paid a lot of money. He's coming off of two very bad seasons consecutively. We know about the talent level, obviously, but from the White Sox, I mean, they know they're not in the winning window. They're trying to build that core. So they go ahead and they take on Luis Angel Acuna, who had an interesting tenure with the Mets, obviously. Basically purchased in the Max Scherzer trade. Hold on. What? Oh. So they basically bought the money in the pursuit of having to dump Scherzer on the Rangers that year. They wanted to buy some prospects. He was in the big leagues for a little bit. At times he was very good. He was very useful on defense, but he is a little bit blocked with the Mets. So now he ends up as a member of the White Sox. Anyway, back to Robert, who's the biggest piece and the most interesting piece as terms of what it means for baseball right now. These are the last two seasons. 657 OPS in 24 and 661 the year before. And it's not like he didn't play. He played quite a bit. It wasn't a full season, but he played quite a bit. Now, the tools are there and they'll always be there. I mean, until they decline, of course. But, 92nd percentile bat speed, 93rd percentile outs above average. So that checks a major box. I mentioned how the Mets are extremely well positioned up the middle on defense. This only adds to that. This guy's a tremendous defender, especially when he's motivated. And you would think you'd be quite motivated to be a Met now. Also, 90th percentile sprint speed. So, I mean, look, he's a 5-tool player, maybe at least a 4-tool player if you don't believe in the contact ability, which, at times has been there, at times hasn't. It's a crazy amount of strikeout, a crazy amount of whiff. He's very pitchable at times. But, you look back into the not too recent past, and he did have an 857 OPS with 38 home runs and 20 steals. I wonder where that got him in the MVP voting that year because, quite frankly, this is the type of guy that they often have mentioned the word MVP next to him. 12th in the MVP in 23. And if you look before that, the OPSs were better even when they weren't as high end. 2022, 746 OPS. 2021, 946. That's when everybody was basically, proclaiming Luis Robert Jr. as a potential future MVP. And then the rookie season was pretty solid too, 738 OPS with 11 home runs. So you're getting a ton of stolen bases, which obviously in the modern era is important. You're getting huge power, you're getting good defense, you're also getting a ton of swing and miss. If that number decreases, if he can get his swing and miss back under control, this could be a sneaky, huge upside pickup. They are paying him $20 million this year. There's also an option on the back end of that with a buyout. So, it's a lot of money for what his current production is, but if you're looking under the hood, this guy was a worthy. If you see, part of me would have liked to see this move made with conviction right off the rip. It does feel like a little bit of a fallback, hunting Bellinger. They were hunting Tucker. They kind of went fallback for Bo at third. And this almost feels like a little bit of a fallback option, too. Likely they've talked to the White Sox for months. And then finally they get to the point where they're like, okay, let's pull the trigger on this. Let's take the big swing and the risk. Because, of course, there's risk. He's been lousy the last 2 years. And if you're paying a guy to be lousy, that's not helping you. So ultimately, I think I would have been more positive on the move had this just been done right away because I would have felt like the Mets were very convicted on it, but it feels like they almost fell back into this. Nevertheless, could work out great. We know about the underlying talent despite the crappy results, but also probably a little depressing to play on, the worst team of all time record-wise 2 years ago, and then the White Sox were better last year, but not much better. So he gets a change of scenery. He comes to New York, the last big-time Cuban that came to New York. Cespedes, that went very well. And that's my very non-analytical reason why I think maybe this will work out. Maybe the bright lights of Citi Field will pop on and Luis Robert will come to life and this will look like the steal of the offseason. That's certainly the hope, but who knows? As for the White Sox side of it, and we'll look at a lot of other parts of this, later in the show because the Bass is coming on pretty soon. We got to get to him. But, now they have Luis Angel Acuna penciled in as a center fielder right now. They are continuing to build up this base of guys who are going to be 0-3 in the big leagues with big-time talent. I'm talking Teal, Montgomery, Vargas, Murakami, of course, was the big move. And now Acuna, and they also got Paulie, who's a pretty interesting pitching prospect as well. And this is one of the benefits of developing your own pitching in the minors, not only to bring them to the big leagues, but also to use them in trades. So, good usage of prospect capital to go pry, a potentially huge impact piece in Luis Robert away from the White Sox, but also good on the White Sox. They got a couple pieces that'll affect their major league roster more than likely, certainly Acuna. And it remains to be seen what he is going to be. He did have a 4 home run game, as we laughed about a little bit in winter ball this year in Venezuela. He's a dynamic athlete. He's never going to be his brother, but I do think he could develop into a pretty solid regular. He's got contact ability and he's very fast. So for all those reasons, I kind of like what the White Sox are building here quietly. This is going to be a fun team to watch. I'm very excited to watch it. And with that being said, let me just get in the chat here for a minute, and then we'll go to Bass. We'll talk to Bass for a bit, then we'll come back and we'll talk all this stuff out. The glove still plays, and I think that's the biggest factor. Stearns, he did talk about run prevention, defense. No matter what happens offensively, the glove will play for Luis Robert, so that's very good. Robert has wild projections after an 84 WRC plus 2 years in a row. Oopsie projects him for 107 next year. I think if you're looking at under the radar, under the hood type numbers, you're going to be impressed with Robert because all the physical ability is still there. So that's the gamble. This is a little scouting gamble. You're looking at a guy and you're projecting what he could be. And honestly, there's a little bit more hope there because he has done it in the not too recent past. And also, he's only 28. So in a way, I kind of like this move a lot, but I really want to watch it play. And the Mets up the middle defense is elite. Thanks, Dan, for popping that out. Let me go check in my control room. No Bass yet, so we will keep chugging. Also, 42 days until the WBC and Mike Trout still hasn't been announced. It does feel like this is coming at some point, but who knows? What else we got here in the chat? So just waiting for Bass here for a minute. Sad the Mets didn't give Acuna a chance at center field instead of Mullins. Well, yeah, they were a little crowded out there in the outfield. I also think Acuna's a pretty good infielder. They were bringing him in for defensive reasons the years I was there in the infield. So, I don't know. Center field, you need a little more offense, too. So, it's going to be interesting to watch him develop if he actually gets a real chance with somebody, i.e. the White Sox, to really, hit the ground running there. Bass says my link is not working. Let me say just refreshed. All right. One moment, folks. Got a little technical difficulty on the Seabass end here, real quick. So, one sec. Let me just work through this for a moment. Just resent the link. See if that works. Hot take: Robert's bat speed is too fast, and he's putting himself in positions to have to make decisions a few hundredths of a second sooner than he should be. I'd have to look more at his swing. To be honest, I didn't watch a ton of Luis Robert in Chicago, so I don't have a great sense. Okay, Bass is there. Let me go hop out, and then I will grab him, and we'll talk much more Mets, Luis Robert, everything after this little convo. So let me go bring in Bass, and I'll be right back, folks. All right, time to do my usual magic here and paste Mr. Seabass into the browser. And there we go. There he is. There's my guy. Hey,
Boom.
How you doing, man?
Good, you?
I'm great. It's good to see you. And
Good seeing you.
to be honest, you've been very highly requested for a long time. I got a lot of Blue Jays fans that love watching you do your thing the last few years. And you were very, very, very requested over the last month or two. I was kind of waiting to see how things would shake out. Who knows? There's still a lot of time. So
Yeah.
we'll just steer clear of that. But ultimately, yeah, I really wanted to get a chance to, rap with you a little bit and pick your brain on a few things. So I appreciate you for joining us.
I appreciate you.
You're the man. All right, so let me get started first with a couple of questions. Just are out of my Discord here because people loaded it up heavy yesterday. First thing is about hitting 10 years of service. Are you going to hit 10 years of service this year coming up?
Yeah, I got like 30 days or something like that.
30 days.
So something like that. I honestly, I don't know. I know it's not a lot of time, but yeah.
You're right on the doorstep of that.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the significance of that for you? I know for me, it felt significant for me at least. Being a relief pitcher, I mean, I didn't really have like a lot of things to hang my hat on, just like longevity, and also
Yeah.
being a guy that didn't get a first full year in the big leagues till I was 26, maybe even 27. It did feel like a major accomplishment. So I'm curious to feel your feelings about that.
Yeah, I just think it's just a testament to anyone that hits 10 years and just in the aspect of how long you're able to play at the highest level. There's so many things that can go wrong. Usually things do go wrong in your career. Then it's like, how do you bounce back from those bad times? But yeah, it's really, really hard to do. There's not many people that do it. So yeah, it's always been a goal. And then obviously trying to get to it is another thing.
It is another thing because there's so many factors that go into it. It's not just health and effectiveness, and it's like your success is never permanent, always has to be reproven every year, obviously, but also, there's contract stuff along the way too. Like if you're a good player but they don't think you're worth like the money in arbitration, then you're going to be getting constantly
Right.
non-tendered, and you have to kind of kick around and
Yep.
fight through all of that. So it's a huge accomplishment, and I think I don't know, for whatever reason, the day that I did hit it, I remember it felt different. I felt like a made man. I felt like I was in the mafia, and like now, if you want to whack me, you got to come have a conversation about it at least.
Yeah, the gold card is with the 8 years is cool.
Yeah.
But the 10 years is a whole different thing. You have to adapt. You have to basically transform your career. Like you think of how you were when you first came up to who you are 10 years in, and it's like, man, I'm so different than what I was. So it's a testament to anyone that's done it, just how much you've learned, how much you've grown, how much you've changed. So yeah, it's just different.
I think that's a great place to start. You're known for your huge arsenal, your very creative pitching style, adaptive pitching style. I studied you obviously very closely when we played together, but even watching you since, you're one of the hardest guys to think along with. You have so many options. I'm wondering the genesis of this style. I mean, it didn't just come out of nowhere. So when you were
Yeah.
first picking up a baseball and kind of deciding who you wanted to be on the mound, what did that look like, and kind of how did you evolve through that?
Yeah, like to me, to me, it's like I think baseball is in like a massive crossroads where I think I always look back at I had a minor league pitching coach, J.R. Purdue, and he was always like, it's easier to throw softer. Like, and so like I always was in the boat forever, chasing velo, chasing stuff. And then I got hurt. And I was like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to go through rehab. I don't want to get on, I hate the IL. I don't like the IL. I don't want to be on the IL. So for me, it was so much easier to just like manipulate the baseball and like learn different pitches. Now, I'm not saying I learned this over time. I learned this right away, but I learned this over time. So for me, I just see the way the state of baseball is going, and I'm like, it's so much easier to be me than it is to be like Scooble or Skeens. Like everyone's chasing like the 100-mile-an-hour thrower that's throwing nasty, nasty stuff, and the spin rate's out of control. I'm like, it's so hard to be that. You're chasing a unicorn. It's so much easier to be me than be them. And I'm not saying I'm to a level of Paul Skeens or Scooble or any of those guys. I'm not. I understand that I'm not. Um, but I'm still really dang good in the aspect of like I know in the last 5 6 years I'm top there in innings. I know in the last 5 6 years I'm top five in wins. Like um
It's a gift and a
at the
curse when you have that type of velo at this point in baseball history. Because it's like
but that
now, if you're down two
right.
miles an hour, it's a problem. You're chasing everything in every bullpen. The standard is set in a spot where honestly, it's like the needle's pointed at something that's not performance. It's just like we want to see the raw ability only. You know what I mean? In a
Right.
way, yeah.
Because like to me, like I like the thing that I appreciated like with you and like the way that like the older guys I'm when I'm around older guys, I'm like they understand not just like their like stuff when it comes to like pitching, but they understand who they are. Like they understand like their role and what makes their role like this little avenue, this little niche that I'm in, that's what makes me the most value for the team. And for me, could I get my velo to 94, 95? Yeah, sure. I guarantee you I could. But I don't know if I can take as many bullets for a team if I'm sitting at 94, 95. Like, I don't know if I can jump ahead of starters to make a start for somebody or go out of the bullpen um, to help the bullpen and like mix and match and throw bullpens on different days and things like that. Like, things behind the scenes that I do, you do, older guys do, people don't understand that in today's game in the aspect of like they just chase stuff, and I'm like that's not the value, that's not how you get to wins. Like it just it's I just I push back on a lot of that.
I do too because I mean, look, we all chased it. As a young kid, you want to get noticed, and it's hard to get noticed just off pitchability, especially if you're not at like a huge SEC school where your results are like a stamp of approval. Like, oh, you're facing the top tier hitters. I mean, you being a guy
Right.
from like Dayton, like I went to Northeastern, like it's mid major, like it's D1. But at the end of the day, like no matter how dominant you are in that conference, they're still looking at the package of what you're bringing to the table, like physical
Right.
tools wise, especially nowadays. It's so measured. Everything's so freaking
Yeah.
measured. And I feel like, look, like there's a lot of innings that have to be covered in a major league season. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. Somebody's
Yeah.
got to shoulder 180 of those. I think that's a
Right.
huge boon to everybody else because if you're trying to keep those Ferraris fresh down there in the bullpen, you can't
Hmm.
run them too often. So we need a couple Chris
No.
Bassitts out there, and I love that you're holding the torch and continuing to do that. On into your
Yeah.
late 30s.
Yeah, that's I mean, I look at like I obviously look at myself, but things like I look at like Logan Webb. I'm like Webb. I don't know how much he's making. It's not enough. It's not
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, he leads the league in
Like
innings every year.
every year, like you can't make it up. Like you can't make 220 innings or 210 innings up every year. You can't do it. Like you drop Logan Webb and you go to a guy that's sitting there throwing 160 innings, 150 innings, or he gets IL'd 135 innings. Where are those 80 innings coming from? Like, for the most part, they're going to come out of your bullpen, and then you're going to wonder why your bullpen's falling apart in the playoffs or you're falling apart in July, August. And then it's like, why is our team sucking? Why is this guy's numbers going down? Or why this guy have a bad year? It's like he was on pace for 85 appearances for this year, and then he fell off. No crap. Like, what do you mean? You need guys that are going 6+ innings. Like, have these starters go 3 times through the order. Like, I understand the numbers and the aspect of, oh, we're trying to win today, so hold this guy at 4 1/3 at 70 pitches. And it's like, okay, that makes sense for today if it was game 7 of the World Series, but it's July, it's June. Like these bullpen arms and these starters cannot sustain this workload. It just doesn't make sense and it'll never make sense.
I will say the year that we played together was one of the more enjoyable years I ever sat in a bullpen because we had 5 and even 6 when you think about Jake coming back later that year and what Tylor
Yeah.
did early in that year, and we had a great starting pitcher on the mound going deep damn near every night. We had an old school manager letting it happen. And then, the group that we had down there in the bullpen could kind of mix and match. Nobody was worn down. We ended up winning a hell of a lot of series that
Right.
year. And I know from our side, we really appreciated it a lot. And then also like going through that gauntlet of pitching and being trusted to cover innings, you get faced with a lot of different challenges that make you sharper as a pitcher. Like for example,
Right.
you find yourself this year in the postseason contributing out of the bullpen. I'm sure it helped that you had all these different battles and you knew that there was a lot of different formulas to go at these guys with, and you could kind of
Yeah.
use your intellect to then go ahead and transition your game into a 1 inning or 2 inning relief stint and still be awfully effective. How was your emotions going through that? What did you feel in that experience of being, basically a high leverage reliever come the postseason this year?
Yeah, I mean, it helped that I had relief experience in the past. Like I came up as a reliever, so I understood. Like I think a lot of people have problems with going from starting to relieving because there's a whole different like avenue and a whole different ball game. How relievers get ready for a game, like that's the beauty of of baseball and like everything behind the scenes that just the average fan doesn't realize is like how different I get ready for a start versus how like you get ready for like an obviously sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth inning game. Like you're just sitting around for 3, 4 hours, and then I'm like, all right, I'm ready here, or like you're running sprints, things like that. So like I understood the avenue of how to get ready for the bullpen. But in the aspect of actual bullpen, it was like for me as a starter, I usually have like 2 or 3 different plans when it comes to facing a hitter, and it's all based on like situations. Um, but like when I'm a reliever, it's just the A plan. It's just like that's it. Like my best plan versus you that day, and obviously like stuff's gonna tick up a little bit, but overall it's just like it's the A plan every single time. Because I know I don't have to face you 3, 4 times. I only have to face you once.
Yeah, 100%. It's a huge difference. I mean, you can go with your A game. You kind of know how to read things off of your A game because it's your A game, and then from
Right.
there you can pivot off of that when need be. But I'm curious a little bit also about just like the mental side of it. You're used to having your day. I mean, it did help obviously that you came up as a reliever. I think it would have been a much harder transition to your point had you
Hmm.
not. And I've seen it with other guys like Senga, for example, definitely uncomfortable in that role, whatever. But I feel like there's also like that anticipation factor when you're sitting there, right? Like
Right.
the whole game's kind of trending your direction, and you kind of like are trying not to launch with your hormonal response too early and that sort
Hmm.
of thing. How did you feel doing that? Because it's hard to control that in a postseason atmosphere, even if you're used to doing it, like you're normally an eighth or ninth inning guy all the time. Obviously, it's ramped up a little bit, so I'm curious about your experience with that this year and how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I threw it in the postseason was with the Mets. And I felt like I handled that really, really like poorly. In the aspect that I like try to do way too much. And when I try to do way too much, it was like I came out of myself. Like I didn't pitch my game. I was like kind of pitching someone else's game, and I was helping the other team by walking guys and trying to do too much and trying to go out and just win the game by myself. So I sat there for legit 3 years waiting for that moment. And I was like, all right, like this is like literally what I've mentally prepared for legit 3 years in the aspect of like, whatever happens, I I can't really control where the ball goes. I can't control all these different things, but like I'm just gonna be me at the highest level I can be myself, and whatever happens, happens. And so I honestly just went out there, and I was as crazy as it is, I was like just so mentally free. I didn't worry about the results at the very end. I didn't think like, man, I'm gonna win this game for us or I'm gonna lose this game for us. I was like, I'm just going to like pitch my game, attack the hitters, and just go have fun. And it was the funnest time I've ever had in my career by far.
Yeah, you guys look like you were having a ton of fun, and I want to ask you about that in a minute. But it's funny because I can relate to that a little bit because I remember my first playoff experience. I pitched against the Cubs in a wild card game, and I kind of survived that game on pure adrenaline and guts or whatever. And then we had a day off, and we were about to play Milwaukee. And I like to study, I like to be well prepared, but I think I took it way too far. Like at this point now, I'm facing guys and I'm trying to be so perfect out there. I'm trying to only attack their weaknesses. And I felt kind of the same way. Like I wasn't pitching my game anymore. Like I was just sort of now I've transformed into something that's not even who I am. And what I realized to your point was, well, next time I'm in this situation, I just have to be myself. And that's the best chance I have. If I'm myself, I can then read from there. But if I'm trying to be somebody else, I'm going to end up doing them a lot of favors. So I can definitely relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
But dude, I could see you guys were having a lot of fun. I actually saw your wife in the suite in LA. I was like in the suite right next to you guys. The girls were having a blast. You guys seem to have a blast. You guys had a special level of chemistry, camaraderie this year, or at least that's what it seemed like from the outside. Can you touch on that a little bit? The group that you guys had this season?
Yeah, for sure. I just think, and I give so much credit in the aspect to the front office there, because like we obviously had like a lot of veteran leadership when it came to George and Varsho and Gauzy and Scherzer and things like that. And so it was like we had this small little group that was kind of running the team. Like we even met with Ross multiple times, and Ross was like, "Listen, this is your guys' team. Like whatever you guys want to do, like we're doing." So
Yeah, they were riding with
we
you guys. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, so like we became like super super close because like it was like we have no one to blame but us. Like we are making basically all the decisions here. Not like they're still going to make front office decisions and things like that. But I mean overall, like who are we to blame but ourselves if we're telling them, hey, do this, do that, and it doesn't work out. So like it was super fun just in the aspect of like we were totally bought in as a team, and then we were obviously super close on and off the field because like we've been there. We were in the playoffs in 23. We absolutely just like crapped the bed on that aspect of it. 24 was an absolute just like embarrassment for us, and then like we fixed things, and so like we got really really close. Had a lot of tough conversations, had a lot of hard conversations, and then there was like, all right, there's no excuses for this year. Like no matter what, like so many teams are making excuses, so many teams are like saying this is why we're not winning, this is why we're not winning, this is what's going on, the front office is doing this, the coaching staff's doing this. Like we're not doing that at all this year. Like that was like a super big line in the sand for us, is like we are not going to make excuses.
Did you guys
And
start
so
that conversation super early this year, like coming into spring? Like there was like a different renewed mindset as a group, you think?
it was before spring. Like, yeah, we had Zoom calls with each other. Like, we had private conversations with each other. We had group chats with each other, and was like, listen, like these are the reasons we thought this season spiraled, and like this is simply not going to happen this year. Like, we are not going to allow it, and
Yeah.
we didn't allow it. Honestly, everyone bought in, um, and it worked out until it didn't.
Well, I mean, I hesitate to. I honestly, it's so funny though because like having watched every second of that run, it I know you didn't win, but it felt like you did in a way. I know you don't get the trophy, but you did it.
No,
You
yeah.
did enough, in my mind, in a way. I don't know. It was interesting. It was one of the only times in my career that I've watched a team technically lose, but I felt like, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was just like is nobody somebody had to lose. It was one of those
Yeah.
situations. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we play 50 games against the Dodgers,
It's
I
close.
think I think it's like 49-51. Like, as crazy as it is, like,
Yeah.
I just think our team chemistry, the way that we played the game, the way that we really didn't strike out and gave, like, pitchers a lot of problems.
Oh, no doubt.
Um,
Really grindy.
yeah, I just think it's super, super close. But I mean, the Dodgers of the Dodgers, and they're obviously the World Series champs for back to back, obviously. And the biggest aspect is you got to beat them to say you're the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off to them.
Yeah, hats off to him for sure. So, in the veteran situation you guys had this year, obviously you got yourself, you got Bieber who came over, you got Max, we got Gauze, you got Hoffman, you got a whole bunch of people on the pitching staff with some years under them. All of a sudden, a young phenom comes up, guy with a weird arm angle, throwing downhill, with a reverse slider. And it seems like you guys basically embraced his arrival, propped him up, helped him out. And, what was that like? What was that transition like? What was the conversations like when you saw him pitch for the first time at the big league level? What was the conversation in the group like? How are we going to help this guy? This guy could help us, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us as, like, veteran guys is, like, we did not want to overwhelm them. So, like, we were asking questions, but we weren't, like, critiquing or trying to change what he is, who he is. Like, it was like, all right, like, film study, what do you do? Like, workouts, day one, day two, day three, day four, etc. What do you do? What do you do before the game, like a start? Like, how early do you show up to the game? And then, like, obviously him showing up, you heard a lot of rumblings in the minor leagues of how this guy is super funky and he's going to really, really help us. Um, and then it was like, all right, like, I've heard this story before. Like, I've heard this young phenom or this young rookie is going to come up and save the day, so to speak. And then he gets to the big leagues and it's like, this ain't gonna work. Like, or he's not ready, or whatever the thing is.
Of course.
But he showed up and I was like, okay, like, the first game I was like, this is really, really different. Like, I have not seen this arm angle before. Like, this just the hitters are obviously, like, having really tough at bats, especially against the splitter. So I was like, okay, I think we have something here. But then it's like, okay, like, what do you do next start? And then it was like, all right, he did it again. And then, like, he had a rough one. I can't remember. I think it was against
Kansas City.
Milwaukee,
Kansas City.
Kansas City, at Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I was like, okay, how do you bounce back from that? And he bounced back right away. And I was like, okay, like, this is good. So then we started just critiquing a little bit, just a little bit. And it wasn't as crazy as it is. It was a lot of the veteran guys getting together. It was like, hey, what do we want to bring to him? It wasn't like I'm bringing an idea, Max is bringing an idea, Gauzy's bringing an idea, like, Shane's bringing an idea. Like, we were all kind of talking together of like, hey, like, how can we help this kid without overwhelming him? Because he's still, like, 6 months ago or whatever, he was in college. Like, so it was like, how do we not overwhelm him in this moment? And just
Yeah.
honestly, how do we make it fun for him? Because, like, these moments are huge. Like, you see his dad in the stands having a blast, and it was like, how do we make this like, hey, we're trying to win a World Series here. This is absolutely massive for us, blah, blah, blah. Like, but, like, just go have fun.
Yeah, have the time of your life, basically. It's just so
Right.
fascinating because it seems like you guys did such a great job of actually communicating with each other and putting your arms around this guy and figuring out what to tell him, what not to tell him. There was some actual thought process there. I'm wondering when you were a young guy in Oakland, when you got over there and you got to the big leagues, were there any vets that put their arm around you a little bit? Like, is there anything that you learned from with that, good or bad? Because for me, it was mostly, kind of not so great, and then I learned from that.
Yeah.
But I wonder in your case.
Yeah, I mean, from a veteran standpoint, I mean, I had like Brett Anderson, who was kind of a workhorse. Obviously, he dealt with some injuries. Trevor Cahill, but like Barry Zito, I relied on heavily for a lot of it. Um, but honestly, when I got over there, it was like Jesse Chavez was over there, and it was Scott Kazmir, and it was Sonny Gray, and it was like, all right, like just these guys. It wasn't so much like guys were coming up to me and like telling me like, hey, do this, do that. It was more so I was like, damn, Sonny's like a top five pitcher, so to speak, in the game. I'm like, and I'm just sitting there and I'm watching every bullpen. I'm watching how he throws. And I was like, dang, this guy can manipulate the absolute crap out of the ball. So I was like, okay, I think I can do that. Like, and I was just literally just watching everybody. Like, cause I was like, I think I can do what he's doing here. I know I can't do what he's doing here. So it was like trying to steal as much information from these guys as possible. But like, overall, it wasn't I didn't have anyone with a bad experience, so to speak.
I guess you guys had mostly a younger club too with Oakland, and it's also a little
Very
bit
much
of
so.
a different circumstance too. Like I mean, he's coming up basically in the throes of a AL East pennant race, which was obviously quite
Yeah,
tight this season. So it's a
yeah.
little different for sure. I was curious about the pitch com and your usage of the pitch com, and I watch you. It seems like
Mhm.
you're one of the best. I wouldn't say manipulating the clock, but at least like using the clock, to your advantage when needed, whether you'll use the entirety of it, whether sometimes you feel like you're rolling and you want to kind of speed up on the hitter, you can do that. But I mean, are you calling every pitch now from the mound always, or is that sometimes a back and forth with Kirky or whoever's catching you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as crazy as it is, I feel like it's I have a game plan and I have an understanding and a feeling of like kind of what's going on and like the feeling of like how is my curveball that day or how my cutter is that day or whatever it is. And so like I I don't really want to call my game. But then I also don't want to throw pitches I know are not the smartest pitch at that time. So
Yeah.
it's a very big give and take, and I would rather call my own pitch than have the catcher try to guess with me. So like a lot of the times I would say it was like 50-50 where Kirky was like we're on the same page and Kirky's just like rolling or Heine's just rolling. And I think this year was by far our best year in the aspect of like our catchers and Tyler Heineman was unbelievable for Kirky in the aspect of like getting in the film room with him, understanding like how who every single pitcher was. Because I think like Alejandro Kirk is so good at catching, like his framing, his blocking, his throwing out guys was so good, and I think his next gear is like the film, understanding pitchers, everything else like that. And I'm not saying he's bad at it because he's not, but um, I think that is like the biggest room for improvement in that aspect.
Yeah.
And I think because he's still so young, like like he's an unbelievable hitter, like he's an unbelievable defensive guy, but in the aspect of like understanding pitching and understanding pitchers and like communication with the pitcher of like, hey, what's going on here and there? Because Kirky's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was like, okay, how do we get on the same page with all of our guys? And it's not to just go around a circle here, but it was interesting because I just saw so much growth in Kirky in the aspect of like, all right, I'm truly trying to get on the same page as the pitcher and call an unbelievable game.
Yeah, I also at times would call all the pitches from the mound towards the end there on the pitch com because oftentimes, if I if we're not on the same page and I want like the fourth thing that they're calling and I'm going to be up against it with the clock, especially with guys on base. Like if I want to throw a changeup right and right or something, pretty fat chance that Alvy's going to get to that right away.
Right.
So sometimes that's why I would do it. But at the same time, I was always concerned about not keeping catchers engaged. I mean, ultimately, I feel like we always called the game anyway. They were just throwing out suggestions, and I wasn't going to throw
Right.
anything I wasn't convicted on anyway. But with the clock and the ability to call it from the mound, and with you having so many options, I almost feel like there's almost no choice but for you to call it from the mound in a
Right.
lot of circumstances, you know.
Well,
Um,
one of the biggest issues, and maybe I was trying to like dance around this, but one of the biggest issues that we have in baseball is like front offices giving catchers like the sheet of
the
paper
sheet,
of
yeah,
like this is what we want you to throw to this guy. And it's like that's fine. Like no, like that, like I don't disagree with that sheet of paper in the aspect of like, hey, we're facing Manny Machado. And we want you to throw a slider down and away, or whatever it may be. But it's like that guy's slider right now is not good. So like now what? And so it's like you can't just call a slider down away because like metrically or analytically, like this is the smartest pitch with like the best whiff or whatever it may be. Like he's not executing it or he's not feeling it or whatever it may be, or we're not having it set up or we've done it too many times. So it's like that cat and mouse game where I think Alejandro Kirk went so much better with like the help of Heineman in the aspect of like understanding who's on the mound, like understanding their strength, understanding how many times did you just do that to this guy before like a great hitter's like, you're not going to do the same thing to me again. There's no way. So I love the sheet of paper, but at the same time, some of the times I'm like, throw that thing in the trash and let's go play like old school baseball. And like, let's read the hitter, let's read the moment, let's read the swing, things like
yeah,
that.
that's where I landed too over time. Of course, you want to be prepared. You want to know some things about the opponent, but I actually think going through a whole playoff run, catching in high stakes games, 2 series that go 7 games, Kirky and these guys, that's a unbelievable education to get because you're facing same guys over and over and over again. Like when Springer pumped that home run off Bizardo. He was getting pounded in with sinkers quite a bit in that series. So he's a lot more aware
Right.
of that. They make a little mistake there. That's the one he can handle, and he's all over it. That's real life in the big leagues. Like, yes, you can do all the recon you want, but at the end of the day, the longer you play, the more you realize that the game is truly played pitch to pitch. You have to read the scenario. You have to read what you're capable of. You have to read what the opponent's capable of, what just happened. Let your
Yeah.
instincts come into play. And man, that's going to benefit Kirk a ton because he got to kind of experience that with you boys all the way
For
through
sure.
October. I'll
For
never
sure.
forget it too because when I was with the Yankees, the first run around in 19, it was the first wave of the teams really trying to have the pitchers paint by numbers, like this count, this batter, this pitch, and the catchers were pretty much forbidden to come off of that. So I would have to do all the
Yeah.
shaking, and it just would always confuse me when I was like, you're not watching the game. So now you're losing data points. Like, I know you were all about data points, but now you're ignoring all the ones that are right in front of our faces. Like, these are also important data points. Where that was he under that ball? Was he in front of that ball? Was he late on that ball? What did you do the previous at bat? What's the situation? These are all variables. So I'm glad that you pointed that out because I couldn't agree with you more, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the next level. That's the level that gets you to 10 years because then you can kind of adapt.
Yeah. And I think especially from a reliever standpoint, you have to understand like who the starter was. Like if you're a reliever that's saying throw 94, 95, but then you have a starter that's throwing 97, 98, 99, and you come in and they're like, "Hey, four seams up are really going to play today." Well, and four seams up are not going to play today because they've been sitting on 97, 98, 99 the whole entire time. Or like we've abused them at the top with 99. You're not going to abuse them at the top with 94. That's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's like it's just understanding the game and understanding like these hitters are the best in the world and they've never been more prepared. So like you can't just keep abusing them the same exact way. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you got to have a radar. You got to have a radar. I also think that's an important thing to talk about too. Is like reliever coming in after specific starters. Like I always felt great coming in after like a four seam guy, like a Degrom or a
Yeah.
Max. But maybe me coming in after you, maybe it's a little redundant at times.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's a fair criticism as well. I was curious about Varland. What a workhorse! What a dog!
It's
This
dog.
playoffs. I was loving that.
Dog.
I'm sure his day started earlier than everybody else's, getting that body ready for battle for the like.
Yeah.
You're going to face the best hitter on the other team with the game on the line. That must have been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, he's an absolute dog. Like, I mean, we had some guys like I know like Brendan Little wasn't massive for us in the postseason, but like dang, like he was a dog for us in the season. Like we had guys that just took the ball and just pitched their just absolute balls
Yeah,
off.
flew
Like
RT2.
it,
He threw a
yeah,
ton.
flew ton. Like it was just like Hoff, obviously a ton. It was just like the guys that we just called upon, they just were like they wanted the ball. They wanted the ball. So it was like we just sat there in the moment and it was more so like as crazy as it is, like we had 20, like obviously the roster's 26, but we had like 30 guys that it was like we don't care about your results. Like we know how hard you're working, we know what you're going through, we know how much we've put you through. Now let's just all just go try to win the game. And if you give up 2 runs as a reliever, like we're not going to look at you like what the heck just happened because we understand how hard you've been worked or we understand like you've thrown 3 out of 5 days or whatever it may be. Like it's just like let's go get a win. Like however it happens, let's go get a win and like throw all the stats aside. Like it don't really matter, but like Varland, it was like every single day I was sitting there, I'm like, hey, like you can tell them that you need a day. Like you can tell them you need a day. Like I don't want you to get hurt. Like you're still young. Like I understand, but you can tell them like, hey, I need one day off. But dang, he was like, no, I'm good. Like I'm like, all right. But
I
I
was
honestly I think like not to like harp on him, but I think like his wrestling background, like because he was like a big time like wrestler, that he just like his wires are crossed. Like he just is like he's got a big time fight in him, and so like he constantly just wants to like battle. That's it.
Yeah, he won't let them pin him. He's got that
Right,
in him.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Nah, it's a great mindset to have, especially as a reliever. Sometimes you're gonna get knocked down. I mean, Judge hit a ball fucking foot off the plate inside off of him, and he still comes back attacking the next day. So that's the
right,
sign of a great fireman. Great stuff, but not afraid to go right at dudes. So
for
that
sure,
was really cool to see, man. I'm excited
for sure.
to watch him again this year and see how that goes. But that was impressive. I kept worrying about him getting overexposed, but ultimately he threw really well at the very end of the World Series as well. So that was pretty cool. Trying to think what else I got for you. I don't have a whole lot. Let me check the chat here. Um, on my phone from yesterday, there's a couple questions. Okay, Toronto as a city, obviously it's a big food town. Um,
hmm
did you partake in any of the food scene up there? What'd you think about that? It's very diverse, obviously, so they have a lot of good food up there.
Yeah, so we lived like 25, 30 minutes north of the city. So like we have 2 kids. Like we have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. So like getting a 2-year-old out of the
Yeah,
house
tough. Yeah.
is not fun. So yeah, we didn't really do much, but like our lease ended like I would say like I think it was like September 1st. So like September 1st through like the playoffs, we like moved into the city because it was just more convenient. And like we just knocked around every restaurant. Oh dang. We knocked around like every restaurant possible. But dang, there is so like honestly, Toronto is easily one of the best cities in the world for food. Like
Yeah.
it don't matter where you like what kind of like food you want, like what kind of avenue you want to go down. You want like,
They have
a steakhouse,
crazy Indian food, Thai food, like ethnic food, obviously steak, all that. They got it all.
steak, sushi, like man, like it was just like, hey, like it was not even so much like what restaurant you want to go to. It was like, hey, like, do you want sushi tonight? Do you want steak tonight? Do you want like Thai food? Do you want like fast food? Do you want pizza? Like it was like everything was unbelievable, honestly. Like the food scene was great.
Yeah, no, it's a dope city, and it looks like the Blue Jays have really, really upped their game with the renovations of the Rogers Center and made it a lot more attractive. And I don't know, the vibes you guys had, I feel like that pays it forward for the team for a long time because people definitely noticed that this year.
Yeah.
So it was a blast to watch you guys. All right, I think that's about it for you, buddy. I appreciate you coming on, rapping with me a little pitching
Yeah.
talk, and best of luck in free agency. And I'll catch up with you wherever you land.
Sounds good. I appreciate you.
All right, you're the man. Thanks, Bass.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one. All right, there was Mr. Seabass. He is gone now, and we will keep it moving here on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that chat. Obviously, really smart pitcher. We've all seen it. We're all big fans. Um, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see who he gets signed to. I feel like every team he's been on has really all the fans have always wanted him back, whether that's Oakland or the Mets or the Blue Jays. I feel like he ingrains himself very well. He's got a certain level of grittiness to him, and he really endears him to the fans. So we'll get him. We'll get him back in eventually in the future. And we could have talked nuanced pitching forever, but I thought that was a pretty good first chat to get him in and out, so he can go train and get his day going as we're getting closer to spring training. So there's going to be a lot of. This is like crunch time. This is like getting ready time. Even me, I got to go throw after this, right? Because I got to get ready for WBC. So, this is crunch time where guys don't have as much time in the morning. So, anyway. Am I Fred Flintstone? Yabba dabba doo. All right, so we'll head back over to the main screen. I had pulled up Bassitt throwing a couple scoreless, a couple zeros there in the postseason. We can get back into still talking about Mr. Luis Robert in a moment here. No, not that. Hold on. Small name. There we go. But yes, I still practice because I'm going to be pitching in the WBC, so more than likely. So I need to get ready for that. So yes. Why give these hitters so much grace? You know what old school guys like Nolan Ryan would do to a hitter second time up? Straight chin music. Yeah, that's an option. It's an option. But, you got to make sure you know how to keep them on base and you're going to get the next guys out or you're just giving more runs, basically. So, anyway. Italia, baby. Italy. Italy will be my second time. Pitched for them back in 09, so we'll be completing quite the circle here. Pitching for the old country, as Norm says. All right, so let me continue to rehash this trade just a little bit. I'm curious what everybody thinks. It's an interesting one. I mean, granted, from one aspect, the Mets didn't give up a ton. It's not like Luis Angel Acuna is like one of the tippy top prospects, of their group. But he's definitely a big leaguer. He's going to be a useful big leaguer. I don't know if he's an everyday player, and I think that's what we're about to find out. But these metrics mean almost nothing to me because of such irregular playing time. Like 193 plate appearances last year, 234, 293, 274, 567 OPS doesn't really mean a lot to me because he didn't get consistent ABs. And so now we're going to find out. And I think ultimately as a young player, you need to find out. You need to play regularly. You need to play every day to find out. So I think that's it's an intriguing thing to wonder about. He's very fast. He's a good defender. They haven't penciled in center, which I've personally never seen him play much outfield. But, he's in such a weird place to be as a ball player. You're 23 years old. Your clock has started as early as 21. And now you're in the situation where, like, they're expecting you to be in the big leagues. Now, for me, I just talked about it with Bassitt. Like, we didn't really stick till 26, 27. And we weren't really being judged at 23 because we were still in the minor leagues, right? Now, of course, you want to get there as young as possible, but I think it's also important to remember that he's going to be finishing off his development in the big leagues. So hopefully by playing every day, which is what I'm hoping the White Sox give him the opportunity to do, he might be able to turn himself into an everyday ball player and make this trade a little bit more of a win for the White Sox. And again, I think it was okay for the White Sox because they weren't going anywhere with Robert. So now they're able to lock in a much younger team. Look at the ages on the players in this everyday starting lineup. Chase Meadroth is 24. Teal's about to be 24. Montgomery, 24. Vargas only 26. Benintendi's the OG. He's only 31, which is scary because he's been around forever. Murakami, 26. Acuna, 24. Cuero, 23. Baldwin, 25. And even on the bench, it's a bunch of young guys as well with some good prospects coming. So, the White Sox aren't going to win the Central. They're not going to be a postseason team this year, but they're still going to be exciting to watch. And ultimately, I think the White Sox kept hoping that Robert would rebuild his value, and it never quite came to fruition. I understand why they gave it another run in 25 because you're looking at 23 and even what he did in like 21, and if he stepped it back up and had another 800 OPS last year, then this return would have been a lot more would have been a lot more, fruitful than just Acuna and Pauly. But that wasn't the case. They end up cutting bait. Salary comes off the book. They get a couple of young lottery tickets and they move forward. And then once again, from a Mets perspective, they've talked at length about the strength up the middle, especially on defense. This is fine. This allows them now to run Tyrone Taylor as the backup outfielder. I'm not sure if they're still in the market for Bellinger or not. It tells me this might take him out, take the Mets out of the running for Belly, and I thought Belly was a great fit, but I also think they weren't trying to wait around again. They waited around again. They waited around for Tucker. They were waiting to see what smoke would come out of the out of the chimney, and ended up being Dodgers-colored smokes. And then they make the pivot to Bichette. And I don't think they wanted to wait around this time. I think they must have convinced themselves somewhere along the line that Robert was a gamble worth taking for the price, and then they did it. So I'm very fascinated to watch how this plays out. There is a question in the chat from Maya here. All this talk of the Mets being too left-handed, are they too right-handed now? Does this decrease the chances of Beatty getting traded? All right, so Bichette's a righty, Semion's a righty, and then they have two righties at the bottom. I think it's solid balance, obviously. And, this lineup can change a lot. On the bench, it's three righties, though. You can't really count Terens because he's a straight swap with Alvey when he plays. Tyrone is a righty, but he's going to be there for defense. Vientos is an interesting guy because we know what he can do at the bat, but he's kind of blocked. I think he will play some first base. Mauricio, switch hitter with big talent, but now also kind of blocked with nowhere to go. Be curious to see how much Bo plays. I don't think they're too right-handed to answer your question. I mean, yeah, they could use one more maybe lefty, but, then you'd be deleting Benj from the roster more than likely. And so, or I guess maybe Tyrone. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out between Benj and Tyrone. Now they don't have a need to necessarily start Benj in the opening day roster if they don't want to. So, I don't know. Certainly this is a talented offense. No doubt adding Bichette, Polanco, Semien to the defense, and now Robert and even Benj is a huge talent infusion to kind of try to offset that Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil departure. But it's such a question marked group. So anybody that thinks they know how this is going to play out is lying because they don't know. Bichette at third, who knows? Polanco at first, who knows? Can Semien bounce back at the plate in a pitcher's park? Who knows? Robert, can he regain his huge potential and back into a good form? Who knows, right? So all of the moves that they made this year have a huge wide range of outcomes. And so look, we'll give credit where credit's due if the Mets go out and this group performs. But there's a lot less certainty here than what they had before, and maybe the front office just felt like, they felt like they had certainty, but it wasn't high end enough. So I get that a little bit from their standpoint. Maybe they didn't want to get used by Boris. I mean, maybe it does seem like this Bellinger thing is really dragging out now. I don't know who the other suitors are. Obviously, we know the Yankees have made offers, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to trade Beatty. I think they're going to hold on to Beatty. It's tough because I'd like to see him continue his fielding development too. And right now he's penciled in as DH. I'm sure these positions are going to move around quite a bit. And to your point here, Maya, if they did trade Beatty, then they wouldn't have maybe enough lefty bats. So then that could be a little bit of an issue. But I don't think they're going to do that. Now, I was wondering how they were going to use a little bit of surplus of infielders for a trade, and I thought it was going to be maybe for a high-end starter. But they still haven't made that decision yet. They still haven't gone high-end starter. Framber Valdez is out there, and he would, his talent level would look great with this mix. But maybe they're content with their pitching mix, their starting pitching mix, and they're going to try to run it back and hope for a different result this year and hope that the young guys kind of graduate, and they're not going to use their surplus as much for pitching. But anyway, the first trade chip that they do use is Acuna, as well as this guy, Truman Pauly, excuse me. Graham Pauly is the first baseman from the Marlins. So let's look at Truman Pauly in the minors. 21 years old. He's barely played. He was a Harvard guy. he pitched 3 games in A ball, 3 starts, only pitched 4 and a third. So we know nothing about him really except his draft pedigree, where he was a 12th rounder out of Harvard. Honestly, 21 years old in the Ivy League, getting whacked around for a 4.61 ERA is not exactly encouraging. It did strike a lot of guys out. Maybe they have some stuff that they know about him under the hood, and maybe they feel like they can turn him into a prospect. I mean, getting drafted out of the Ivy League with that kind of results means there's something there, but we don't know enough about him. So anything I say would just be speculative. I'm trying to see if there's anything in here about him. Literally nothing. Now, from a payroll standpoint, we should talk about it a little bit with what happens with Luis. So he's guaranteed $22 million for this season. The option is guaranteed money, so it's a $20 million salary, $2 million buyout on a club option, which is another what is it for next year? Another 20-ish million, I believe. Let me just go double check that. So, I mean, look, the Mets have a lot of money. They're paying obviously they're paying penalties on all of these signings as well. Yeah, it's another $20 million team option. So if he's great, they bring him back for a very reasonable price, considering his ceiling. But, if he's not, then they kind of cut bait for just the 1 year of 22. When you think about that, they might pay Bo Bichette 1 year 47 this year. It doesn't seem so insane. But man, a lot of these moves do feel kind of reactionary in a way. But I feel like this one, at least they got ahead of the Bellinger thing. At least it wasn't like, oh, Yankees signed Bellinger and then the Mets trade for Robert 2 seconds later. I feel like, maybe they felt pretty convicted on this, which to me is all that matters. If you're going to go ahead and take on a distressed asset like Luis Robert, as long as you're convicted on it, then I can respect it. Like, that's how I would be as a GM. I think, like, if I believed in an undervalued guy, I wouldn't wait around. I would just kind of go ahead and make it happen. So they do that, and now we can go on and see what the Mets do next, because they can't be possibly done yet. They have to add to the pitching, at least in my opinion. All right, so here we go. Norm says Mets are going to suck, no power. They have some power. I mean, it's not no power, right? I mean, just checking the Mets lineup real quick. I mean, Lindor hits homers, Soto hits homers, Bichette hits some homers, Polanco hits some homers, Semien has a 40 home run season, Beatty has power, Alvey has power. They all have power. We'll see. We'll see how it plays at Citi Field this year and how it works out. But they have guys with pop, so I'm going to agree to disagree a little bit on that. I don't know if they're going to suck or not, but I don't think it's going to be an offensive problem as much as maybe a pitching issue. So we'll see. Definitely an exciting team. Look, it's a brand new team to watch. I'm curious how Gary, Keith, and Ron feel watching it, and therefore how the fan base will, because they listen to everything they say. So we'll see. All right, here we go. Mets could still get Peralta, add another Brewer. I know that seems to be a major bidding war because Freddie's only making $8 million a year, so any team can afford that. So a lot of teams are going to be trying to pry him free package wise, and we'll see what the Brewers do there. Do I think Vientos can be a headliner for a top-end starter? Probably not, unless the team is super offensively starved and challenged. I've been on record saying I am a big fan of Mark. I thought he was headed to offensive superstardom coming off of 24 with the 838 OPS, plus he played unbelievable in the postseason. And last year was a struggle, undeniable struggle. But, a lot of the under the hood stuff offensively is still there. Like, he still hits the ball hard. I think the big thing is just his whiff has kind of ballooned a little bit, and the chase, so he's got to be a little bit more selective. I like when he goes to right center because he's capable of that. Can't get into too much of a pull mode. But this is a weird spot. He's kind of blocked. It would have to be an offense-starved team. It would have to be. That would be the formula for him getting traded for a top-end starter and being the headliner. I don't think he's quite enough because he doesn't bring any defensive value. So I don't think he would be quite the headliner. I think it would be more like a Tong would be more of the headliner because he's got a little bit higher upside, in my opinion. All right, we really need a glove at first. Belly is the last hope for that. Don't see that happening right now because, Belly, they could be in on him, but I don't think he'll be playing a ton of first. I think he'll be playing left field more for them. Is Framber a top line starter? In my opinion, absolutely yes. I had him as my number one pitching free agent. I understand some of the makeup concerns, etc. But to me, he's absolutely a top end, top end guy. Ooh, Maya's out on Harvard, guys. Okay, this is a quick Yankee question in the chat. If the Yanks don't re-sign Bellinger, who do you think is their pivot? I don't think they're gonna pivot. I think they're gonna do a Dominguez, Spencer Jones. Maybe there's a room for a Bader, or they could trade for a Brenton Doyle, but then they'd have to Grisham's out there now. They'd have to move him to a corner. Doyle's a full center fielder. Who knows what the trade package would be? But I don't think they pivot to another big signing or a huge trade. I think it would be something complimentary. And really, they want to clear the runway to find out about Spencer Jones. You can't compare him directly to Aaron Judge. I mean, he has even more whiff than Judge had in the minors. But when you have a rig like that, like a body like that can produce that much power, and it's unicorn power, maybe you should give it a chance to see how it goes and see if it can be developed. And you're not going to find out if you don't try and play the guy. So him, and then obviously Dominguez. The Martian's been a big deal for a long time. So I think they'd like to see what they got there if they don't bring back Belly, and I don't think they'll make too much of a crazy reactionary move. Personally, I don't see the Yankees doing that. Yeah, Josh just wants them to re-sign Bellinger already. I think the Yankees fans are getting antsy. I mean, they've seen nothing but moves this year and really not much by their own club, so I think it's a weird place to be. For me, I really like the Ryan Weathers trade, but that's for me. All right, what else we got? Do I think the Mets bring Canning back? I bet you he would like to fit back with the Mets on some level. I would also watch out maybe sneaky for the Braves if he had a good relationship with Hef. He did have the Achilles problem. I did see he was back on the mound throwing. Guys have come back from that pitching in baseball. Wainwright, Zach Britton, plenty of guys to return to form. So I'm not worried about that injury for him. But, it does take a little while, and I don't know what the market would be. Canning was awfully good before getting hurt last season. Really showing a very nice array of off-speed pitches, little bullet slider, really good changeup, and had good effective numbers. 16 starts with a 377 and 76 innings. Now, ex-Woba hates it, but that's because he's a big-time ground ball guy. But what I really liked that he was doing is he's got this death ball slider shape, the yellow, which is really nice, and the changeup shape is below the zero line. So two very depthy off-speed pitches, get a lot of chase below the zone. So I don't know. Somebody's gonna want him, and I'm curious what type of market he has coming off the Achilles. I would think the Mets would be in the mix for that. That would be my guess, but again, it's just a guess. How did my daughter's audition go? Don't know yet. Don't know the results yet, but she had a great time, which is key for a summer intensive. She is in the production of Sleeping Beauty. She got into that. So she'll be in 6-7 shows again at Lincoln Center in a little while, and that is awesome. Really cool for her. No spice there. I'm just saying, when you are it's like any team, right? Like, you're a fan, you see the team often through the eyes of your announcers, right? So, you can't help it. You hear their commentary on everything all the time. And I actually think Gary, Keith, and Ron are for me, they're the second best booth in baseball. I'm partial to the Giants booth. I know that's a little controversial to Mets fans, but maybe they don't have as much experience with Kipe and those guys out there in San Fran. What I'm partial to, but I think the Mets are the second best booth. I love Keith. I love Ron. And Gary's an institution at this point. So I don't think it's that. I'm not being salty. I just think that people definitely, they're kind of the franchise in a lot of ways. Like, they're the ones that have been there for the longest, and I think a lot of fans see the team through their eyes. So I wanted to point that out. Yeah, and I agree. I think Vientos is low value right now, so I don't see him selling him. Plus, they need him to play some first with Polanco's situation. Can you give my thoughts on the Mets starting pitching? Is it better than people are giving them credit for? Or am I just high on them because it's my team? So I think two things can be true at once. I do think, on one hand, there's a lot of talent in this rotation. It's not hard to see it. McLean, from what we've seen, has the potential to be a true number one, but he's certainly a major league starter. Petey, innings eater, really good at controlling the run game, Probably not a game one postseason guy, but a very useful guy to get you across the edge. Holmes was also quite good last year, and I'd like to see him obviously add a few more innings in there. But you got to love the ground ball ability of Holmes, and really, he's got a lot of good pitches. Mania, also a guy with huge upside. We saw it 2 years ago. It's a weird angle. The biggest thing for him is health, but how much can you really expect out of Sean in terms of innings this year? That's a big question mark. And then Kodai's a huge question mark too. There's obviously been frustration there on both sides. There was injuries. There's a lot of trade talk this offseason, but in a way, he might have the highest ceiling of all these guys. Maybe not McLean, but right there. So they have five nice arms here, not to mention Tong and Sproat, and probably some others that I'm forgetting about. Wow, I didn't realize they had Criswell. McGill, he probably won't be back. Yeah, he won't be back this year. Who am I forgetting? Hagenman was up there, and then Christian Scott's another key one. Christian Scott. If when C. Scott comes back, that adds a little bit more, spiciness to their depth. I just think they could use one more high end guy. I actually think stylistically, Framber would make a lot of sense. You have a really good infield defense up the middle. He's a ground ball pitcher. He eats a crap load of innings. I guess they're a little bit allergic to paying pitchers, and obviously he's going to want to get paid certainly better than Ranger Suarez. But yeah, this guy is high end for me. 192 innings last year, 176 the year before, 198 the year before that. Big time postseason success. He would take their rotation to the next level, in my opinion, or just letting it all hang out for a school ball, which is kind of the aggressive move I'd like to see. But I don't know if they're gonna do it, man. I really think they're gonna kind of let it ride here, and they might make a complimentary move. I just don't see them being as aggressive for Framber. And if I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong. So, yeah, we're going to get to Hall of Fame in a few. Who got Goldie? Did that happen today? There was a Goldie move somewhere? I don't think Goldie signed yet. Yeah, I haven't seen anything on that. Goldie would be an interesting first baseman, like platoon type of guy, but I don't know. So Gallen or Valdez is the question. Look, I think Valdez is a better free agent in terms of certainty right now, but Gallen is a guy I love. The thing that's killing Gallen is this damn qualifying offer being tied to him coming off of a down season. I'd be willing to give him a long deal though. I think I'd be the one team. I'd be like, here's 5-year deal and see if he bites at that, because I think Gallen's a great pitcher. I don't think last year defines him at all. So, shit, on my free agent list, how high up did I have him on my free agent list? Let me see. I had him pretty high. I had him ahead of some guys that have gotten big money. Yeah, I had him ahead of Ranger Suarez. I had Zach Gallen as my number 11 free agent. He's the only one unsigned here besides Belly now. So, yeah, I had him very high. I think highly of Mr. Gallen. I don't have him as high as Framber, but I do think he'll be a good get for somebody. Man, I got to get rid of this guest screen right now. It's messing me up. Relying on Spencer Jones when you have Prime Judge feels like such a waste of the window they have. So the window isn't created off of one player. Obviously Judge is Judge, and you'd like to win with Judge. And the Yankees are going to have a good team even if they make no other moves right now. I think they'll be in the mix. I also love that the high-end starting pitching will be coming together as the season goes on. But the whole thing about relying on Spencer Jones, it's just like, if you don't give him a shot, then you'll never find out. The 2017 Yankees, who were there ahead of schedule getting to the ALCS with the baby bombers, the Sanchez, the Judge, etc., we would have never known about that had they not gotten some run in 16. And I know that was the only time that's ever happened where the Yankees kind of punted and they made some trades. Miller, Chapman, etc. They got some pieces back. They brought up young guys. Then they kind of found something. They kind of found something with some of those young guys. Glaber, Gary, and Judgy, obviously. Even Greg Bird was a part of that group at the time. Sevy. But I just think you don't know yet. Look, he's got big power for a reason. He's Spencer Jones. He's not nothing. I know he's got a big strikeout rate. It's hard to ignore that. But at the same time, he is a little bit of a special minor league talent in terms of, overall power. Ugh, what an annoyance. See what his prospect savant page looks like on Spencer. So yeah, I mean, look, it's the most obvious trade-off type profile. I mean, you see this all the time with guys, even in the big leagues, even great players. Like Schwarber is probably the best example of the guy with the trade-off. He has too much strikeout. The difference is his chase numbers. So the biggest thing with Spencer Jones is finding a way to narrow this number down, which usually gets worse in the big leagues, which is that chase percentage. He's got to become a little bit more selectively aggressive. And I know that's going to be hard to do, but you also can't ignore what happens when he makes contact. What happens when he makes contact is really, really good. He's also not a bum, like in terms of like as an athlete. He's a good athlete. He's fast. So, you know, I'd like to find out. I'd hate to miss on a potential big time guy if we don't find out. This is interesting to look at his heat map. I don't know which direction we're looking, which makes it tough. Like, is the hitter on the left side of the screen, or are we looking at the pitcher here? We're looking at the catcher, or we're looking at the pitcher here? Unclear. But I would guess we're looking at the catcher here. So he struggles inside and up in the zone would be my guess. Yeah, I bet he crushes down low in the zone. That's probably what you're going to see. Mostly with Spencer. But I don't know. I'm curious to watch him. You know, I wouldn't immediately say, oh, he's a suspect, and so he's immediately out of there. I think it's a little more complex than that. They have him as the 4th best prospect. I mean, it's a 60 power and a 40 hit tool. Not often you see a big time prospect with a 40 hit tool, so I get the trepidation, but it's very similar to Murakami. Huge pop, big swing and miss. How do you develop that? How's your hitting coaches, right? Like, how do they develop that? How do they get going on that? Wow, Yankees are going to trade for Yordan Alvarez? I mean, shit, that would be a gangster-ass move if they did that. But I don't know about that. All right. What else we got here? Yeah, they also don't have a spot for him. Good point here by Josh. We had the most pitchers in MLB history last year. This is my Mets take. I just think there's a lot of capable guys there, but you gotta cover a lot of innings to get to the finish line, right? So to me, I'd be adding another starter. For me, a high end starter too. You're gonna get to the postseason. Who's gonna start those games? How are you gonna get through that? You know, I think it's gonna be tricky, and I don't think the Mets are in it just to make the postseason here. Innings must be pitched. That's the key. Do I know through my sources? I don't have sources, Sal. But if I did, I don't think Skeens is available at all right now. I think that might change after the year. If the Pirates struggle again, I think they're going to be in a completely different situation because Skeens will have 3 years of control through ARB, and I think Sherrington will be getting the boot because they're making efforts right now, the Pirates, to be better, and then I think Skeens will be a get because they'll try to replenish. But I don't think he's gettable right now, personally. And I do see this question, Maya. So let's just take one moment to go over the movement chart one more time because it's important. It's important. Now, I do think the baseball savant movement chart isn't quite perfect, but it's pretty close. So when you look at this chart here and you see these dashed lines, these circles that are dashed lines, that is MLB average movement. This, see, it says MLB average with these dash lines. That's MLB average. So you're looking at certain pitches, and then based on how far away their dots are from that dash line is how you identify whether something is a potential outlier or not. Now, there's way more variables to consider: velocity, arm angle, approach angle, all those things matter. But on a pitch movement basis, you know, it's clear to see right here that we're looking at Framber Valdez. The curveball, which is in the light blue, is pretty much out of that box. That makes it well above major league average in terms of movement to the glove side and down. Remember, when you're looking at this chart, imagine the catcher is right in the middle of the bullseye. So anything that moves to the left will show up on the left side of this chart. Anything that moves to the right will show up on the right side of this chart. Anything that has spin on it that's creating extra drop will be on the bottom half of this chart. Anything that has spin on it that resists gravity and going up will be on the upper part of this chart. So those are basic things to remember. We can also see here that like for example, his sinker shape oftentimes is in the league average, MLB average bubble, but it also at times it's below it. So it's not a bad thing to be sometimes close to average. Most people are, but any bit you can get away from league average helps, and that's why these charts, are really cool to look at. But there are other variables to take into account, and often when we watch the games, I can explain that a lot better when I show, when I draw my lines on the video and stuff and say this is why this plays, etc. But on a basic pitch movement level, I hope that answered your question. So, all right, we're gonna get back in the chat. We are gonna talk Hall of Fame here in a second, but I got a lot of stuff in the chat. Framber crossing up his catcher last year is really hurting his value. At least that's the narrative. Who knows if that's true or not, but it definitely feels like it could be true. What do I think of Rangers' backloaded contract? Oh, I didn't see quite the backloaded nature of it. But maybe that means the Red Sox are still trying to keep some money out there to make an additional play here. But I don't know. The Red Sox have been confusing. And honestly, those two teams in particular, the Red Sox and the Mets, for different reasons, I think have had frustrating off seasons that are impossible to grade yet. They both could end up really well. Like I like Contreras a lot. I like Sonny Gray a lot. I even like Ranger Suarez a lot for the Red Sox. And for the Mets, like I like some of the talent they got. Like Bo's going to be a good hitter. He's going to pair really well with Lindor and Soto. Roberts upside, Semion's defense. Like I like a lot of these things. But I also feel like most of this wasn't plan A for the teams. Like Red Sox miss out on Bregman. Mets don't bring back Diaz, which I definitely think was plan A. Now they end up with Williams. It could still be better, could still be just as good or better. But again, it wasn't a plan A. So I think it's hard to evaluate a little bit at this point. But I think these teams aren't necessarily done either. I think both teams are looking to do good things. It's also funny because the Mets have acquired nothing but position players. And the Red Sox fans are complaining because they've done nothing but pitching. So maybe they could help each other out here a little bit. Hey, maybe there's a little bit of a fit between those two franchises, and maybe we'll see. In the meantime, I would like the Mets to trade for Peralta and McGill, Trevor McGill, the other McGill. I guess he's also on the block. It's tough because the Brewers won 97 games last season. So it's like, I know this is what they do. They always kind of reset and repunt. But, I mean, this isn't a team that's coming to spring training not trying to win this year. It's basically the same lineup. They got Woodruff back. It's kind of the same rotation. Like, this team should be good. But, yeah, Freddie Peralta has a chance to maybe net something big, whether it's for the near term or the long term. And again, a lot of it is that $8 million salary. You look at Freddie Peralta as a pitcher, he's tremendous considering how little he's getting paid for his value. And then Trevor McGill, so he's really the closer. They have Uribe as closer right now. That kind of happened when McGill had a little bit of an elbow thing, which is a little concerning. His brother's already a Tommy John right now. And you certainly don't want to pick up a guy and have him blow out right away. But this guy is so nasty and so modern day. Just two pitches, but like maximum filth, ridiculous four seam, outlier four seam. See, Maya, you can see it and everybody on the chart. It's got a little more lift than average and a little more perceived cut than average on that four seam. Not to mention it's 99.2 on average, which is a joke. And then he's got this straight downhill curveball off of that. And he's got the really high arm angle, so those pitches tunnel extremely well. Like the high fastball is the same lane as that curveball is going to come out before it hits the deck. So this would be a great guy, another shutdown guy if the Mets were able to acquire Trevor McGill. They'd put both big drips together, which would be dope. And then, Weaver, McGill, Williams is devastating, along with Brooksy and Minter. I mean, now you're cooking with gas. But the question is, what are you going to have to trade for this package? It's not only McGill, who's basically elite with not a lot of service time, and then also Peralta, who, really, he's one of the top pitchers in the sport. 200 strikeouts each of the last 3 years. He had a 2.7 last year and 33 starts. So I think to make this trade, Milwaukee can set their price extremely high and stick to it. And if they get it, great. And if they don't, I'm pretty sure they're going to roll into the season and just play some ball and try to win that Central again. But I mean, shoot, you just saw a couple trades recently go down, and Peralta is every bit as valuable as those guys. Not to mention the salary, which props up the value even more. You know, when you can pay a true number one, $8 million. What an advantage that is. And he's in a free agent year, so he's going to be very motivated on top of that. So I like Freddie for a lot of reasons. And it's funny because I remember his major league debut. He actually threw it in Coors against us when I was with the Rockies and shoved like multiple, like double-digit strikeouts. So pretty cool. All right, what else we got here in the chatty chat? We got a lot of talk in the chat about this Jordan idea. Some people are in, some people are out. Why are some of the dash circles ovals? I just think that the oval shape probably is more accurate for where the average actually sets in. Like maybe if it's a little more north-south oval, like the range that is considered more average on the vertical plane is a little more jumbled there, or less jumbled there. So like it ends up being a little more of an oval. Yankees have Ben Hess, LaGrange, Elmore with Pico and Kilby. Go get anyone. Yeah, I mean, the Yankees always do trade prospects, so if they feel like there's like a package they can go do, they'll be aggressive. Cash will be aggressive, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. They've been awfully quiet. There's something going on. Obviously, I don't know what it is, but the international stuff was weird. Not signing anybody. So I think I don't know. The Yankees are a mystery right now, and we're just gonna have to wait and see how that plays out. Valdez going to winter meetings shows he knows he did a really. I think they knew they had to get ahead of the narrative. Don't think that worked. And I also think when you show weakness when you want to say, hey, look how good I am. Hey, look at this and that. Like you just kind of have to play it straight a lot of times as a free agent and let them come to you. But this is a weird one playing out with Framber because I have him as the top starter on the market. And at this point, you can't help but think that it's not going quite the way he planned it. So we'll see. I am assuming that now with Robert in, Belly's out of the question. It would block out Benj and Beatty in left field. I don't think it blocks Benj, but like, what's the harm in sending him to AAA for a little bit? Why are we making him a starter on opening day, one year into his career? I'm high on Benj. I'm excited to watch him. The tools are exciting. The reports are exciting, but opening day, we've seen it time and time again. Guys make opening day, and then before you know it, they're back in AAA. So, really, it doesn't matter how it starts. It's more how you finish. I would love for Benj to be a real force on this team come midseason. As a Jays fan, I'm scared for the inevitable Sox-Mets trade. I do feel like that's coming. It just seems like they're going to line up. Red Sox have a lot of pitching. Mets have a lot of surplus. Whether it be young position players. So I don't know, maybe not, but you can see it line up a little bit. Red Sox are waiting on Skubal to pair with Crochet. Now that would be epic if they did pull that off. And I mentioned like they could do it. They have the prospect capital to do it. That would be an intimidating 1-2 to have to deal with, along with everything else. But that would be just an embarrassment of pitching riches. I mean, I don't know. We've gone over it before recently, but just to reiterate what the Red Sox currently have in the pitching department starting, the list is super long. Crochet, Ranger, Sonny, Bayo, who could be a trade candidate, Oviedo, who they just got, who they like. And then there's all of these guys, Cutter Crawford and Patrick Sandoval, who are both coming off injury but should be good to go at the beginning of the season. And then all of the minor league dudes as well, some of which looked really good when they came up last year, like Connolly Early. But let's not forget about Peyton Tolley, who's big-time fastball, and then also Kyle Harrison. So, and some of these other guys too, Drohan, Sandlin, these guys are all going to affect the big leagues a little bit. So I don't know. I find it very fascinating that they have this many pitchers. I know they're projected number one in Fangraphs WAR for the group, but I'm curious what what Breslow does with that group. Does he use it to strengthen another part of his roster or not? And we don't know if this will actually happen, but I do think the Brewers are shopping him, but with a very high price. So we'll have to see if anybody wants to meet that. All right, here we go. Man, I don't see Yelich ever leaving the Brewers. I know he's really tight with the owner. He's been there a long time. He's going to be a Ring of Honor guy with the Brewers. Feels like he's making more money than he's worth now, although he has been pretty solid the last few years, so I don't think that will happen. See, to me, the Mets do everything they did in this offseason, and they still have Diaz. Then I would have felt like maybe it went a little bit more according to plan, but that was definitely not the way they saw it working out. Now, they did do a good job getting Devin Williams, and I think Devin Williams has a chance to be just as good possibly. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to watch how that plays out, but something weird happened there. I will be working pre and post for Yankees Yes Network at least 40 games this year. And then I'm pretty sure I have some ESPN stuff, so stay tuned on that. I don't think Garrett Cole is elite anymore. Well, I can tell you one thing, he plans on being elite, so I wouldn't put it past him. Very driven, very talented, new elbow. So we'll see. What do I think of Bo having it out after 1 year? Hard to root for a guy if he can leave so easily. I think this was the cost of getting him. I mean, 7 years, 6 years, 200 million or whatever it was about to be with the Phillies. I think they did have to overwhelm him a little bit. I think the opt-outs with the flexibility was definitely something Bo wanted. It gives you 2 bites at it. You have one incredible 900 OPS season, and the next 2 you opt out. You have no qualifying offer. Now you get your long-term deal, and you were paid handsomely along the way. I do think it sucks for fans because especially big market fans are used to having guys stick around for a while. But being a Rays fan, I think you have to buy into the whole operation that it's going to be, a churn all the time. I don't know how fun that is. You know what I mean? I don't know how fun that is. So I don't know. As a fan, I can see that being a little bit of a bummer, but I think people will embrace Bo. He's such a good hitter. He's a good dude. He's going to be bringing happiness to the team, and I think probably some really good offensive performances as well. Yankees firing their international scout so close to signing was a bigger deal than anything else that happened. I agree. This was a disaster. Yankees generally dominate that market. To sit out of it for an entire year could have downstream consequences. They have to get their operation in line, obviously. So whatever's going on there, that's a little bit of a concern organizationally. Totally random, but as a pitcher, what did you think about pitchers hitting? I liked the National League game. I understand it wasn't for everybody, but I liked the thinking part of it, the double switches, the early hooks sometimes on pitchers. Also, I thought it was a big advantage if you could swing the bat as a pitching staff. So I like that. Another thing that could shift the balance in a game. But I also understand like that this move had to happen a little bit in terms of, creating a little more money, I guess, on the player's side because DHs generally get paid a little better than well, if every team has a DH, they have a shot to fill that role. So it's a possibility. All right, what else we got here? The only team whose offseason went actually to plan was the Dodgers, and at least the Mets pivoted. Yeah, I mean, I never doubted the Mets would pivot. They have the money to pivot. They have the wherewithal to pivot. They're trying to win. They have to pivot. But definitely, I think that, I think a couple years ago, the Mets kind of did control the market a lot because they had the biggest paycheck. They had the biggest checkbook. And there was very much a lot of momentum with the org. And I think now there's some, but the Dodgers have so much momentum, and then the Blue Jays entered the chat, which changed things a lot. So I think the circumstances are a little different, but yeah, I think they definitely pivoted. Yankees also have Clark coming back. They have plenty of pitching depth. I like the Weathers move a lot. I think I made that clear when I looked at it. What else we got here? Who's my next interview? You could throw out some suggestions. Don't have anybody locked down yet. I mean, I've been talking to different people. Haven't figured out the games yet. This Friday is going to be a night stream, so probably nobody, but we'll have people next week, I'm sure. Just got to figure out exactly who I want to have on this time and who's available and willing. But we'll get it. Yeah, easy strikeouts for NL facing a pitcher versus a DH. Yep, I used to love getting those DHs. I mean, I love getting those pictures. Free punchies. Need those for the stat line. People don't even know. So I love the suggestions in the chat. Don't know a lot of these guys, but I can, I can work towards it. So, all right, let's talk a little Hall of Fame here. We got to the end of those two. So let's, ooh, Alvy would be fun. Alvy would be fun. All right, let's get into the Hall of Fame a little bit. Two guys got elected. One was Mr. Carlos Beltran, which for me was an absolute slam dunk, as I mentioned. I thought this was the easiest guy to vote for in this class. Clearly one of the better center fielders of all time, switch hitter. I think he was probably being penalized a little bit in life for the, the cheating scandal down in Houston. But listen, everybody else has been forgiven in that scandal. Cora, Hinch, Bregman, a lot of guys. And Carlos was immediately lost his job as Mets manager at the time. I know he's back with the organization as a special assistant. But ultimately, this is a Hall of Fame player. This is what they look like. Rookie of the Year, World Series champ, Gold Gloves, Clemente Award on top of it, 9-time All-Star, killed it in the postseason except for that one at-bat, which we don't talk about. But overall, I mean, just an incredible player with huge longevity. It's a peak plus its longevity. So to me, this was an absolute slam dunk. Absolute slam dunk. Yeah, he was an Astro. He was. Look it up. Nimmo, I actually had a good convo with Nimmo recently. He's still a possibility to bring on, so we could get him maybe. But I don't know. To me, Carlos was such a slam dunk. I mentioned how I never felt like any more helpless in my life than having to face a Carlos Beltran, and here are the 5 times that Ottavino faced him, and boy, it's not good. We got a walk, probably like a 4-pitch walk or something. Let's see where this. Yeah, 4-pitch walk. I wanted no part of this at bat, even though that might have been a strike. I don't know what Willeen Rosario was doing there, but 4-pitch walk. Next at bat, single. This ball is smoked up the middle. Sorry. Up. Well, we'll replay that. I'll fix that. Anyway, you can see this ball's crushed. This is before the age of exit velo, but not good for me. Trying to sneak some cheese by the rat. No chance. A little 2-hand finish. Almost shaved my head there. Yeah, this was 2012. Number 37, the last year before 0 came into play. Then here's a double. This is nearly a home run at Coors. Also 37. I mean, I don't think he hit this ball that good, but it still goes off the wall. EY out there trying to make the play for me, but I did not like facing this guy. So that ball was raked. Even when I got him out. Love you. Oh, love you. Keep me posted on stuff. Let me know if you want to meet for lunch. Okay, I'm going to try to work out right after this, and then maybe if I have time. All right, love you. And then here is the this is the time I got him out, and this ball's also smoked, and this time EY runs it down. So I really never showed well one time versus Beltran, and honestly, it just felt like he was playing on a different level than me. And maybe later, when I figured some things out, it would have been more fun. But anyway, congrats to Carlos. I got to know him a little bit. Really good dude. Smart as they come. Type of guy that always knew. Type of guy that always knew what the other team was throwing. Really good at identifying tipping. Really well prepared player. Great mindset. Made teammates better. Literally everything. So for me, he was a slam dunk, no question. Andrew Jones was the second one that went in. He was my second. He was my second slam dunk. To me, it's crazy he didn't go in this long ago, and that it took him this long. 10 times Gold Gloves. Obviously, to me, he's the best center fielder who ever lived defensively. I know Torrey Hunter's up there and some others, but this guy was incredible. He played shallow, but he could still go back on the ball better than anybody, take away singles. I mean, he started with his hands on his knees, but that was a strategy. It was part of the way he pushed off, going right to left. He was just so freaking good, Andrew Jones. It's funny because I'm going to try to find Andrew Jones defensive highlights because why not? We have career defensive highlights here, so I'll let this ad run, and then we'll bring him in and we'll chat a little bit. All right, here's some Andrew Jones stuff. That was I think his first career hit, which I don't care too much about his hitting, although he was a hell of a hitter, being 19, hitting back 2 dingers off, I think, Pettit in the World Series '96. But the defense is what he's known for. These are career highlights. Man, I wanted defensive highlights. That's fine. We can watch a little bit of offensive highlights while we're at it. And this is MLB, so it's all good. Anyway, I'll put this on while I look in the chat. Beltran in the Cards jersey hurts. Look, I think he's going in as a Met. I think he was a big free agent signing of the Mets. He played a long time with the Mets. I think he's going to go in as a Met. He's still a big, still part of the Mets organization now. So I think that's the case. Who was a better switch hitter, Beltran or Berkman? Ooh, that's a tough comparison. Actually, teammates with the Cardinals at one point. I think Beltran's probably better all-around player, but I thought Berkman was a great hitter. I'd be curious to watch Lance Berkman, because he'll be up for the Hall soon, right? I'd be curious to look at his case. Happy for Beltran. Surely he goes in with the Mets cap. Will be the 3rd player to do so.
Get 4 iPhone 17s.
What else we got here?
4 lines for just $25 a line.
Would I ever talk with Frank the Tank? Probably not. Probably not a walk. Not really into his brand of freaking out about everything, negativity. But I have nothing against the guy. Just not interested in being in that world, really. What else we got here? Felix had a huge jump. Curious your thoughts on the case for starters going forward. Yeah, I've been talking about this a little bit. I feel like these are the World Series shots right here that we're watching now. I feel like for me, starting pitching, the standards have to shift a little bit. Nobody's going to have the 300 wins anymore. You obviously have to have the peak. To me, that's the prerequisite, but it depends on how peaky your peak was. And that's why I think Felix has done so well, because his peak was very, very high. Cy Young, arguably a top 3 pitcher in the game for like a 5 or 6 year stretch. That's a big deal. It's the same argument I make for a guy like Johan Santana. Also saw Pettit made a nice jump this year, got almost to 50%. I've been on board for him. I love his Hall of Fame case because of the playoff pitching as well as the overall bulk. I think he's a part of a team that did an awful lot of winning, and so that's what the game's ultimately about, is winning. So I give Pettit, obviously I'm a little biased there, but I give Pettit a huge leg up. So now we're just watching Andrew Jones hit home runs. I was hoping to watch some defensive highlights because that's what he's known for. Maybe we'll get there eventually, but I don't know. The small hall is tough. It's a hard group to get to 75% of the voting. I'll go look in a minute to some of those. You guys were losing in all those games. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the record of the 2012-2013 Rockies. They weren't so good. It wasn't so hot. Your tire is flat. Come back and get my car. There's no way Beltran goes in as a Yankee. That's funny. Oh, I'm at 34. Wait, 35. Maybe not. Okay, just be safe. Just be safe, Brett. Yeah, Johan Santana was a similar one I was talking about when we were talking about Felix. Also, what were your memories from the 96 World Series? So 90, you got to remember in the context of 95, Yankees made the postseason for the first time in a while in 95, and the newly adopted wild card jumped out to a 2-0 lead versus the Mariners. Ended up crapping that away, lost all 3 in heartbreaking fashion, and then you go into 96. And that's when the magic started to brew. Rookie Derek Jeter, really good pitching staff. But really what I remember is being down 2-0 in the World Series and rallying, winning all 3 in Atlanta, then coming back and winning Game 6. So you know, I think ultimately, you know, it was just a really good rally team. They were probably a little bit ahead of schedule. And then by the time they were 98, they were a well-oiled machine. So, what else we got here? Pettit PED stuff isn't an issue. I mean, it's not so much for me. HGH trying to come back from an injury. The timing of it, I believe, still is ahead of my self-imposed, you know, line in the sand. I guess I'd have to check that a little bit more. But I never felt like he was a product of steroids or anything, and maybe that's a little bit of a nuanced, biased opinion, but it doesn't come up in my thought process too much with him. Hamels was better than Pettit, I think. I think probably head-to-head, pitch for pitch, yeah. But I think they're both have a pretty good case. Hamels is a lot better case than I realized when we went and looked at it. I don't think I ended up... I think I did end up voting for him. He also had a tremendous postseason run with the Phillies. We don't care that we weren't good. 10-year-old Jamin loved the 2012-2015 Rockies. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love those guys too. I'm just saying that we weren't very good, and that's why when I was pitching in those games, we were often losing. So that's what Norm seems to be a little bitter about something today. You okay, Norm? At that time, I was making league minimum, buddy. And really, it wasn't my fault. You know, that the team was... I was pitching when the team was losing. We were losing a lot of games. Luckily, I got into a better spot, and I pitched a little bit later. And then the Rockies got better the next few years. 17, 18 were the big years. So, ooh, that play by Jones was sick, where he, like, Spider-Man'd onto the wall. Did I idolize Jeff Nelson? I would say a little bit. I always thought his style was fun. But I don't know. I never idolized relief pitchers except for Mariano a little bit. I mean, I liked them. I thought they were cool and badass, but I wanted to be a starter. So, you know, I idolized a bunch of guys that were starters, and I ultimately failed. Look at this catch right here. My God, who does that? Just both cleats planted in the wall. See, to me, this guy was so amazing. This guy was so amazing. Yeah, I think it was pre-25. Pettit said he used HBH coming up from injury in 2002. Okay, so again, like, that's where the line wasn't drawn yet for me. So I'm okay with it. And as I've mentioned, there's a minimum of 3, if not more, guys who did steroids in the Hall of Fame right now. So for me, it's more of a line in the sand once the testing came in. So that's my thing there. Don't know yet, Ted. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm not in charge over there, so I'm not sure what they're thinking in terms of prototypes. At least they're doing some things. At least they have some plan here, and they're making some moves. So I'm curious to see how it works out for DePodesta and these guys. Would you do Sproat and Jet for Freddie? Apparently that is what the Brewers are asking for. Perhaps. Perhaps. I'm not as high on Sproat as others. I think he'll be a good big leaguer. I don't think he's a #1. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I'd rather give up Sproat than Tong if that was the decision. And then Jet, you know, Jet's really good, but he's also super blocked. Not sure how that's going to play. And I don't know if they want to spend this prospect capital for the 1 year of Freddie. I think that could be a little bit of the calculus there, but I'd be considering this package if I were the Mets. Yeah, for sure. Known 2018 NL wildcard champs, Colorado Rockies. Yep, we were there. What are your thoughts on valuing playoff stuff for the Hall of Fame? I don't think it should hurt someone if they didn't, but someone like Mad Bum. Yes, my thoughts are your thoughts. It shouldn't be held against you like a Billy Wagner that his team was hardly ever in the postseason. But if you went out there and you were a huge contributor to winning a championship because of your postseason run, like a Mad Bum, Pettit, you know, Hamels that 1 year, certainly what Yoshi did this year, stuff like that, heroic shit like that in the postseason, that should absolutely boost you. Kurt Schilling is another one. Because the game's about winning championships. So that should be, if anything, that should be higher, like weighted higher in my mind. Who's a better center fielder, Jones or Hunter? For me, Jones, but it's awfully close. I mean, you're talking both guys that threw caution to the wind, robbed home runs, threw guys out, and were iconic in the outfield. So, I mean, I'm a little more partial to Andrew Jones, but I think it's awfully close. And I think this is why it took him so long to get in. His fall off, especially with the Dodgers season, offensively really hurt his overall offensive numbers. But if you look at the 10 years with the Braves, he would have been a slam dunk. If he just retired after 10 years, he definitely would have been a slam dunk. Let me throw a pause on this real quick and just illustrate that for a second. Andrew Jones. Yeah, I mean, look, if you just stop with this area right here, he averaged 5.1 WAR per season through the stretch and had a 114 OPS plus at this point. So he was not only incredible on defense, but he also was a 114 OPS plus. From that season on to the end here, I mean, now you're talking a 95 OPS plus, and he hit 210 as a batting average the rest of the way. So, you know, I think that's tough. And that hurt him a little bit. And that's like sort of the argument, like for a guy like David Wright or Pedroia. It's like, yeah, okay, they didn't have as much longevity maybe as like Andrew Jones because they didn't play forever, but they also didn't have the opportunity to keep going in a good way or in a bad way. So everything we're projecting forward to them, we really have no idea about. And both of those situations, they had freak injuries that stopped them. Those guys were both going to play close to 40, and their numbers in their Hall of Fame cases would have looked differently. So I think that adds another level of complication to it. Man, Jones was a freak out there, huh? And diving on a lot of turf in those days, too. I remember reading an interview you did a few years ago where you said the feeling after winning the 2000 World Series was relief. It struck me as a Mets fan. Are there actually diminishing returns as a fan? Oh my God, Maya. Yes, this is so real. Okay, so I've talked about this a little bit before. What expectations do to a fan and do to a fan base. So I'm going to pause this real quick and I'm going to go in the solo shot and just talk for a second about this. All right, so first of all, I think there's something special about the chase, right? Like the team that, you know, hasn't won recently, or and you look at the Mets. Mets haven't won since '86. Or you look at the Rockies, a team who's never won. Or you look at, for the sake of what I'm about to talk about, the Yankees pre-'96. So there was a long time there, probably between the very tail end of the 70s, early 80s, all the way through that point where they weren't good, right? So it wasn't the Yankee fan. The Yankee fan wasn't made up of the expectations that they are now, which is the win or bust mentality, World Series or bust mentality. It was more of the thrill of the chase. Like, can we be good enough? Are we good enough? I hope we're good enough. Do we have the magic? And I think that's one of the most fun feelings as a fan, is going on a ride with a team that all of a sudden you're starting to believe in over time. Like, hey, we're building something here. There's a lot of excitement with that. And even when they fall short, like in like a wild card round or a next round, you still feel that momentum, and you allow yourself to enjoy that run. Once you win, and not just win once you win a few times, a lot of that thrill of the chase is gone. Now all of a sudden it's an expectation. Go look at the Yankees through the entire 2000s after they won the World Series, after they won their last one in 2000. Look at them the entire run up until '09. They had Dodger-esque payrolls relative to the league through that whole entire time period, trying to chase more championships and really infuriating their fans and making, I think, the overall fan experience of being a Yankee way more toxic, because now all of a sudden it's, we can't enjoy anything unless it's a championship. And the only feeling we have when we do win is relief instead of pure joy. So even going back to 2000, the feeling of relief was more like a bragging rights thing. It was like Yankees Mets Subway Series. I had a ton of Met fan friends. You wanted to be on the right end of that for bragging rights. So as the Yankees, the team that we're supposed to win, that changes the dynamic, I think, in terms of expectations. If you feel like you're supposed to win, well, now when you do win, it's more of a relief. If you feel like you're not supposed to win when you do win, it's like pure joy. Like, I can't believe we did that. So I do think there are diminishing returns as a fan, but I think most fans would be fine getting to that point because that meant they had a lot of winning leading up to that. I think another good example of this is what's happened in Boston over the years. For a while, they were starved. Patriots were shit. Red Sox were shit, never won in whatever, 80-something years. Then all of a sudden, the Patriots rattle off all these years of winning. Red Sox win 3 championships. And now the fan base is not the same anymore. It's a totally different tone. The expectations are higher. If they don't win the World Series, it is considered somewhat of a failure. So I think in terms of having fun it's a lot of times the journey is the fun part. The are we going to be good enough? Do we know if we're good enough? And once you have won a few times, I think, maybe it doesn't taste as sweet anymore, if that makes sense. So that was a good question. That was a good question for sure. 100% Sproat and Jet for Freddie. I don't want to trade Tong. Okay. Wonder how you guys agree with that. How Kurt Schilling isn't in the Hall of Fame is a joke. I agree with everything you said there, Omar. You said it. I didn't say it, but I agree. He also did tell them to stop voting for him the last time, and he probably would have gotten in. But that was, I guess, his own choice, but kind of crazy. Yeah, character clause. I don't know, man. That's such a subjective thing, personally. We're Hunter, Jones, Pilar, Kiermaier of the 2000s. Yeah, probably that's the best group outfield-wise. Andrew Jones was the best center fielder I've ever seen in my life. As a Mets fan, I hated him. Ooh, Devon White was a fun player. I don't know if he was quite as good as these guys, but I haven't looked at it enough. Yankees did have the most total wins in the 80s, just finished in second a ton. And but I also feel like they were, I don't know. It was just like, if you go look at some of the attendance in the 80s and the early 90s, it was not a happy time to be a Yankee fan. It wasn't as prestigious as it feels like sometimes. And then 09, they were able to get back in it. And then it felt like, they were back on track. And then, they're still waiting to win the next one.
That's the longest one, isn't it? I can't imagine.
All right, what else we got here?
Footage, but we watched them all. I can't believe a ball went any further than that thing. That was awesome.
Gotcha. A west wind. It was not a good place to play.
Oh yeah, that was a thing too about Tim Wakefield. Schilling said some things he wasn't supposed to say there.
The Braves hope he is sending a message to.
Nothing galvanizes a city more than a baseball team can. It's also because baseball's such a companion with us. It's with us the whole summer, and you do feel like you're going on this journey with the ball club. So it's a really exciting thing when the team's good. I mean, I was in Boston when they broke the curse. Wow, this is a broken bat home run to center. What the fuck is that? Holy shit. But, and I can confirm that was the most euphoric time I've ever seen a city go through. So I think they're all great for a player. I do think as a fan, though, it's like your experience can be a little, jaded by the lack of success or the overwhelming amount of success one way or another. That was my point there. So.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Not that there's a bad day for 400, but it's very lively at the ballpark here today.
I would have voted for Bonds. A-Rod cheated after my line in the sand, so that's why I'm more of a Bonds voter. I would have voted for Clemens as well. I mean, I know they did steroids, but again, it was before it was tested for and everything, so I have it a little bit looked at a little bit differently. But yeah, 7-time Cy Young Award winner in the Hall is crazy, and 7-time MVP in Barry's case. Character clause is so inconsistently applied, it's almost meaningless, and that's the way I feel about it. Again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion and how they think through these issues, but that's the way I look at it. All right, that was it for the Andrew Jones career highlights. He was a hell of a player. He really was. Let's do a little refresh on trade rumors. Okay, nothing there. I'm going to have to sneeze for a second. Okay, I think that's it for the sneeze. Let's see what else we got here. Manny was also after the line in the sand moment, and believe me, I wanted to vote for Manny. I came up in the same organization as Manny in terms of Youth Service League, which is where I grew up playing travel ball. I looked up to Manny my whole life. I think he's one of the him and Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, right-handed hitting. Those are the GOATs that I watched growing up. But I can't vote for him. Serial cheater. It's funny, as a Yankee fan, I compare our current chipless stint, Judge's time here, as my generation's Don Mattingly. Yeah, in a way. I mean, although then again, Mattingly only appeared in one playoff series the whole time. Judge has been in the World Series. He's been in the ALCS a couple times, 3 times. So he's had more team success than Donnie. But I hear you. What I didn't like about the Braves starting pitchers, they only got the benefit of the call, allowing 3-4 inches away from the plate. So I was hoping in the watching series in the future to be able to break down some classic games, and you'll definitely see the strike zone differences, major strike zone differences. So I agree with you there. In those days, it was considered earning it. Like, oh, I'm a veteran, I'm going to get more leeway off the corners than other guys. But in my opinion, I prefer fairness. So that's my opinion. When OJ was acquitted, Buffalo still loved him. Yeah, he did some things, but those touchdowns, I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. I just think it's dumb. The home run leader of MLB is not in the Hall of Fame. I also think the Hall of Fame at the end of the day is a museum about baseball. You can't tell the story of baseball without Clemens and Bonds. Those two, to me, are like in a different category than a lot of other people. So, it's a tough one. Everybody's got an opinion on it. It makes it a fun talking point, but I definitely think the Hall of Fame, has a lot of hypocrisy in it, a lot of double standards. Break down Nolan Ryan someday. That'd be fun. Which era Nolan Ryan? The guy played 26 years. 26 years. iPad app only goes back to 2021, but I have the research tool, which goes back to like 2014. It's not as clean, but you can see a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think they would have been great no matter what. Glavine, I love Glav, but I have a little bit of doubts about him. He seemed to be more reliant on the sides of the zone and the game back then. I mean, Maddox would have been dicing people up still, and Smoltz was actually more of a modern day pitcher in my mind. Glavine, maybe, but then again, I know I'm selling him short. We're talking about definite Hall of Famer, so it's crazy. I use my iPad because it has the Dugout app on it, so I need to use the iPad. So that's why this goes into my computer. My computer is what you're watching me on right now. Like the camera here is my computer camera, and then when I go to my third-party screen, it's the iPad, so I can, do everything here. That's kind of the workflow. Nolan Ryan threw 100 till 44 on Advil, grit, and 0 Tommy John. What's crazy is that he needed Tommy John, and he told Dr. Andrews, I'll figure it out. No Tommy John, I'll keep pitching. That was pretty gangster. All right, what else we got here? Josh pointing out a fair speculation. Don't know if it's true or not. Definitely pointing that out. No, can't get it on a comp. Cannot get it on a computer. Hall of Fame is too small, in my opinion. Mattingly and Hernandez are emblematic of that. I agree. And also, the big thing for me is you look at the percentages of players that make the Hall, in their own era, and that number has been going down. So there's no way that a higher percentage of players in previous eras were worthy of the Hall, and it's less so now. I think it's more that the game has changed, and we need to change our standards to reflect how the game has changed. I think the steroid stuff threw a whole wrench in a lot of these numbers, but overall, at least for my opinion, the Hall is too small right now, in my opinion. All right. How many ABS challenges do you think we will average a game? I'm going to say 4.5 is the over-under. 4.5. Because I think there'll be at least 1 or 2 successes and then a couple more. That'll be my guess. But it's all a guess. I'm curious to watch. It's something we've never seen before. Yeah, I mean, especially with the defense starting to get valued a little more. Keith is like one of 2 defenders ever at first base to have a positive WAR and B-WAR. So like that shows you how nasty he was, and he was like unbelievable, and a great contact hitter, and a World Series hero, and a lot of things. So I would have voted for Keith too, but interesting. This is how I feel. I feel like Barry hit a lot of home runs off pitchers on steroids. Clemens struck out a lot of batters on steroids. I think the playing field was a little closer to even than people realize during a certain era, and so that's why I find it hard to pick and choose through that era. So I just have my 2005 line in the sand. You cheat after that, you're out. You cheat before that, it's not really fully cheating. Like, it's cheating, but it's not. It wasn't. It wasn't. What's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't enforced, is my point. So that's my opinion, at least. Do I have any of my baseball cards? Yeah, I have pretty much all of them. I've been looking to make I even have some of my one of ones. I've been looking to make a little like mosaic of like all of my cards in an order. I think that would be cool. Something for my kid, my son, maybe, if he's interested one day. I don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. All right, Adam, longtime fan here from Firenze. Florence. Discovered this just today. Love the 3 up, 3 down tattoo. True picture stuff. Yep. Thank you. Appreciate you. Love Florence, one of my favorite cities. Very cool. You're tuning in from way over there in Italy. That's awesome. Thank you. Keith gets the mustache bonus. He also gets the Seinfeld bonus. A lot of people with some opinions on roids here, whether it can help your hand-eye coordination, etc. I actually think it can make you a little quicker to the ball and can help you with your recovery. Like when I talked to Jason Giambi about it, and he's the only guy who's ever really been transparent in a conversation with me, he was saying the biggest thing was he just felt great all the time. And as we know, as ball players, the 162 aspect of things is what's tough. The mental grind of it, the physical, how you feel every day getting up to play. But I mean, if you feel great every day down the stretch, that's a big advantage. And so he felt like that was the biggest thing. Obviously, the added juice, the added power, that's always a real thing. But that was an interesting aspect that he mentioned that I always keep in the back of my mind. It's like, same thing with greenies. It's just like being mentally there every day. And honestly, that's like one of the hardest parts about being a big league player is being present every day and giving your best effort every day. While the fatigue monster's setting in throughout the season. Anyway, it would definitely help your bat speed. If you're stronger, you're probably going to swing a little faster, would be my opinion. Keith is a national treasure. Hearing him talk about the Phillies' defensive fundamentals is hilarious. Love Keith, cigarettes, the whole thing. Hall of Fame announcer. A lot of people don't even know he played. That's how good of an announcer he is. And Keith is all time. It's funny. A lot of times players have a adversarial relationship with the announcers of their own team. I've been on teams who hate their own announcers. But with the Mets, people love Keith. They love Ron. Every time we see them in the hotel bar or on the plane, like those guys are always treated with respect. And I really like that. They've been able to be critical but fair and entertaining. And they really toe the line the perfect way. And those guys are idols in my mind. And true legends to be doing it as long as they have. For a proud fan base like the Mets, I think is very, very cool. And Keith is just the picture of, 80s cool in my mind in a lot of ways. So big fan of him. All right. Yep. Shout out Big G. He's the man. He literally when I went to the Rockies, gave me a big old hug, welcomed me to the team, mentored me a little bit. Couldn't be more grateful of Big G, Jason Giambi. He's the man. Very transparent. Love the honesty. And it was just cool to meet a hero of mine. I mean, shit, he came to the Yankees. I mean, I missed it when Tino went away, but when Big G came, when Giambi came, I was like, man, this guy's amazing. And I loved how much he cared and how hard he played. He had 2 clutch home runs off Pedro in that big comeback game. In that 0-3 Aaron Boone game, they would have never been closer had G not gone home runs twice in that game. So anyway, a lot of nostalgia there when I think about him. The Mets booth is the only reason I stayed sane from 08 to 14. It's a huge thing to have a great broadcast team. It does add to the flavor of your organization. And you go back in time to the Dodgers with Vince Scully. I could listen to Vince Scully and my team could be getting bludgeoned by 20 runs and I'd still be having a good time. You know what I mean? I think that's nice. I really missed it when he wasn't doing it anymore. I know Joe Davis is good and Oral's great, but I loved Vin on the mic there. Obviously, the Giants guys I've talked about, Hawk Harrelson, was a guy who I thought was like a big-time homer for the White Sox, but fun to listen to. And ultimately, a lot of times these guys that do become the voice of teams, it's such a part of the experience. So it's so cool when they're good because it can help you get through the tough times. You know, it really can. Yeah, Ron. Always talk about Ron. Love Ron. Ron's one of the goats. These assholes traded the Hall of Fame for late millions in stats. Also, young players do not make it up. Will roid up for a sniff at the bigs. Again, 05, line in the sand. Do I think that their careers were super extended because of the late career roid use? Yeah, of course. I mean, Barry Bonds basically peaked at like 39 or whatever. Like, I totally get it. Like, I get it. Right now, if I could throw some steroids in my body and throw 97, I'd still be pitching, right? Like, I get it. But again, I think the playing field was a little more even. I do think the stuff that's really crazy that people don't realize is that for a player who's kind of like, oh my God, everybody's doing steroids. I'm not doing them, but I need to play better to get in the big leagues. You're faced with some awfully tough internal strife there about making that decision. So I think that's tough. My favorite commenter today is Joe Girardi. He's outstanding, very well prepared, knows the game. I like him a lot too. He's great. He's great. Oh, yep. Euchre was another one. Another one. Fabric of the Brewers. Howie Rose on the radio side. Fabric of the Mets. Absolutely. You know, John Sterling with the Yankees. I mean, it goes on, but I do think that it's underrated how important these people are, not only to connect with the fans and have them watch your games even when they're unwatchable, but I just think ultimately, like, they're just like, they become a fabric of the team. I mentioned Gary, Keith, and Ron in a lot of ways are actually the franchise players. A lot of people don't realize that. You know, in a lot of ways, they're not going anywhere. They've been there since, what was it? 06 was the thing. Have I looked at last year's Hall of Fame class? Not really. Posey, I would say yes to, although he's going to be an interesting case because he's got like 1,500 hits. So it's like way lower on the bar, but I'm a big believer in what he did and the 3 championships and catching and MVP and Rookie of the Year and a lot of things. So it's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, and I don't think Jeter did it or whatever. Not everyone used it, but I'm just telling you, I know a lot of people did. A lot of people did. It's even more impressive when there's no suspicion of you and you were still great, like Griffey, Jeter, Ichiro, a lot of guys. But anyway, Hawk stood out as a kid. Yeah, Hawk Harrelson, he gone. You can put it on the board. Yes. I mean, he was very unique, but entertaining. And we often, because of WGN and I don't know, we would end up watching a lot of White Sox randomly on the road. I always thought he was interesting. John Kruk's another one who they love the stories. So you guys are on the same page with some of my stuff. Yeah, Buck and Dan are great. Buck and Dan are great. Sticky Stuff era was pretty short-lived where it got out of hand. It was probably 2020, 2021. That's about it. 2019 maybe. It wasn't out of hand until probably 2019, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a little bit of a era there for sure. Although don't think people aren't using Sticky now. They're just smarter about it, and it's not as egregious. Definitely stuff happening though. Yeah, and then Frank Thomas is so funny because he's so big, but so he didn't need any steroids probably, but he also then he goes and hawks Nugenics or whatever testosterone replacement as soon as he's done playing, where I was just like, that's a weird choice. But Frank Thomas was amazing. Go look up his on-base percentages. Unreal. He might be the closest comp for Judge in a lot of ways. Just a mountain of a man. Ooh, Jerry Remy and Don Orsillo were sick. I loved Eck too. I thought Eck had some of the best one-liners when you catch a guy looking, give him a pair of shoes. I love that. I think he might have invented the walk-off name. I mean, I thought Eck was great. So a lot of people. And now Orsillo is with the Pods too. So he's also great. I love him. And who's the other one over there? Mark Jones or somebody? They have a great booth too, the Padres, to be honest with you. And then there it is from PK Money. You can put it on the board. Yes. Or this game is over. Clay Holmes, suntan lotion in Toronto. Ooh, Ekisms, the great moss. This guy's got great moss, like hair. Love that. Oh, yeah, Grant. Yeah, Grant. That's the other Padres announcer. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up for the day. The kids, the old man, the kid, whatever you call me these days, I got to go work out. I got to get ready. I got to go get ready to maybe throw a little bit of baseball. Thought this was a fun episode. Shout out to Bass from over an hour ago. We got some good nuggets from Seabass. I thought that was fun. Thanks for everybody hanging with me. I'll put it up as a post, but Friday is going to be a Baseball After Dark again. The thing that I thought I had to do last week that made it a Baseball After Dark, I have to do this week. So maybe that will give me a little bit more, that'll give me a little bit more chance for things to happen, hopefully before Friday night. And then we'll have a little fun on Friday night here on Baseball After Dark. You guys are the best. Thanks for checking me out. Pretty good crowd in here today as we continue to inch closer to spring training in the season, but obviously it's 10 degrees outside, so we're not that close yet. Anyway, thanks so much. You guys are the best. Appreciate all you guys. I'll go put the WD-40 in my joints, and we'll go from there. All right, have a great day, you guys. See you guys. Thanks you so much. Bye-bye.